Oh man, twice in one day for me, my friend. Twice in one day for Johnny Danger. This time with my boy, Christopher Emrick. Welcome to Draft for Upsides Esports with Emrick's initial broadcast, man. The first one.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the first one of hopefully many. I think we've got a couple this week that we can do, but it's a kickoff. The LPL's been going for about a week, and we finally have the LCK starting along with it, and that gives us a four-game slate. Pretty exciting. All of the GPPs have been filling on Draftkings, which means they've been making them bigger and making them better. So hey, this is an exciting one. The pricing's pretty difficult, not as difficult as yesterday, but it should be fun. I can't wait to wake up at 2 a.m. and then go about my day normally afterwards.
Man, I love it. Well, I can tell you that we did a preliminary one of these last year when the NBA and NHL got shut down. And if you remember, you spent about 45 minutes with me, and then I crushed some stuff for a couple weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's exciting. I don't have all the answers today. I've gone through this a little bit. I've looked at kind of some theoretical stuff. I haven't landed on anything necessarily quite yet, and I'm not sure. But I know that I'm putting in a good 20 lineups. So, I'm going to cover some bases, but that's how we do it here.
I'm going to put in 3, and you're going to guarantee me that 2 of those 3 are going to cash.
I wish I could do that. And I might be able to do that. I don't know.
I think, well, that's the goal. I'm going to put in 3. One's going to take first. One's going to take fourth, and the other one's going to take second to last.
I mean, I think we'll know exactly how this is going to go based on how your NBA lineups do, because you're in a bit of a heater. You were heating up even during college football yesterday. I trailed you a little bit. I didn't end up winning. I put 2 lineups in. Mm-hmm. The problem was I hedged. I went, heavy on Ohio State in my other lineup, and that was the one where I had the backup running back that ended up scoring some points. So the other one I didn't have it. I did a little bit different than you. I went, I think Nigel Harris or whatever his name in the captain slot.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, the only thing I was missing was Teague, and I just figured that there was going to be no run game out of Ohio State. That was going to have to be the pass. So I went with a couple of their cheaper wide receivers and stacked Bama, which turned out well. I mean, I tripled my money. But if I would have had Teague in there, it would have been a nice payday. Just like that Sunday slate, if I just would have had Hunt in there instead of Dobbins, I'd have been $10,000 richer.
Yeah, or if you had played like the Browns defense with that. So
actually, the Browns wasn't as big of an upgrade over Pittsburgh's D as Hunt would have been over Dobbins. I'd have made a couple more $100, but I made $10,000 if I just would have had Hunt in there instead of Dobbins. Oh well, what could have been? It was still a good weekend, good birthday weekend, so can't complain.
So. No, I mean it was tough for me because going into that last game, and I knew it wasn't going to hold because I had a lineup that had pretty much everything.
Beaches love hard seltzer, by the way.
Oh, I have a hard seltzer too. I'll pull it out.
I heard you do pull out. Heard that.
Yeah, it's the only way to go. But yeah, man,
I just lost 2 viewers when I said that. I just want you to know that.
Well, look, I was winning $6,000 going into that last game, and I really needed Michael Thomas to go a little bit bigger. But I just watched it just crater with every score. As soon as the game kicked off and that happened, even though I had a ton of Browns defense in my lineups, it went down to 3. Then it was down to 25. Then it was down to 2. Then it was down to 15. And then it was down to 14. And then it was down to 1,100, which is how much I had in. And I was like, man. And I mean, it hovered around there. And then the last touchdown, that last drive for Juju, I think it was, and it went down to 600. And I was just like, man, unbelievable.
I wish I could have been joyfully watching that game, but I went to bed at halftime winning nothing and was just upset and tired and hungover from before. So I just went to bed. Woke up with a pleasant surprise, though. So
yeah, I mean, I figured that you probably did based on what you had shared with us in the group chat in terms of how you had switched to your lineup. I was like, man, by the time that all played out, it probably worked out in your favor, and it did indeed.
Sure did. It really, really did. That worked out well. But anyways, man, I'm excited to get back into some League of Legends. I did wake up at like 5 a.m. this morning and just couldn't fall back asleep. So I just turned on the old Twitch feed and watched the last match all the way till like 8:30 in the morning. So I forgot, man. It's a fun game to watch. It's a frustrating game to be a new player because they have very basic tutorials, and then they're just kind of like, dude, go play the game and figure it out. So you're really bad, and your teammates yell at you, and it takes forever to figure out all the different champions. And it's also random in that you finally figure out one style of champion, and then they're like, here, have this range champion instead of melee champion. You're like, wait a minute, I don't know how to do that. And then they're like, here, have this support champion who heals people and pulls people out of battle. And I'm like, wow, I really don't know how to do that.
Yeah, I mean, look, you pick one or two champions, one or two roles, play it. I mean, there's plenty of tutorials on YouTube in terms of how to play those particular champions, the combos that you have, and just get good at like two guys and basically, just play those and play those and play those and get good at it, and then just relatively good at it, and just play it from there. Also pretty excited. I bought a ice cube, like a circle ice cube ball thing.
The press, the little brass press.
No, it's a plastic one.
You gotta get the brass, dude.
This is $6. I'm not getting like the $800 brass plex one.
You're doing it wrong. Apparently, you got to win $200,000 again and get this straight.
Yeah, it was $6. I saw it at Target. I was there buying a cookie sheet, and I was like, "Oh, this would be cool." And then, I made it, and today's the first day I'm using all of the balls that I made.
Sure. Well, I'm an old school video gamer from back in the day, and trying to get a little bit back into it. And it's a fun one to watch, man. CS:GO is okay. It's fun to watch people get headshot and sniped. That's cool. But League of Legends, I mean, I could just watch it. It's just I didn't even have the comment on because I couldn't find my headphones. I was just watching it. And you start to figure out like, whoa, the blue team's looking awesome. And then you're like, oh, what's that over in the shadow? Oh, red guy, what's he doing all by himself? Oh, he's not all by himself. The whole team's there. Kaboom. Yeah, a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, I think the games that you were watching this morning were, a little more action-packed than we might see tonight. But, there are going to be some pretty wild and crazy ones over the weekend. I don't know if there's going to be any support in terms of Draftkings contests for like the Brazilian league, but they are super aggro there. So it's fun to watch. It's fun to listen to in Portuguese because there is no English broadcast. They get pretty hype, and it is what it is. But today we have $20,000 to first, 4,700 person tournament. We've got a smaller, I think 800 person tournament with a $1,000 to first, and then another 800 on DraftKings or on FanDuel where it's 800 people, 1,000 to first. So no matter what your bankroll is, there are a couple contests here that are decently sized and winnable.
I like it. Well, I got a free $20 ticket to play tonight, or this coming morning, I should say. So I'm definitely going to throw one shot in there at that 20K. Maybe a couple more. We'll see.
Oh, wow. Okay.
We'll see how I feel about, your advice today.
Sure. Well, I mean, where do you want to start?
Well, man, let's see. I've got this up here. How about Team We versus Victory 5? Let's start there.
Yeah, so let's start it with this. For those of you that might be watching this and have absolutely no idea what we're talking about, that's okay. I think in terms of fantasy sports for DraftKings, League of Legends for me has been one of the easiest ones to pick up and figure out. Now, other people have not been able to do so, and that's why I continue to win, and some people don't, and that's okay. But a lot of it is about correlation, and it's made me a better player overall. What we do need to preface is that there are two specific different leagues playing today. There are two games that are played in Korea in the LCK, which is a smaller, more disciplined league, and by disciplined, I mean they are not going to be super aggressive. It's not going to be as crazy. And in a lot of cases, they're going to have lower kill totals, which is something that you need. Whereas the Chinese leagues are ones that are going to facilitate a lot more upsets by the way that they play because they're far more aggressive. They are typically the ones that you want to gear yourself towards in terms of fantasy. And then on top of that, they at least give you their starting lineups a day in advance. So Team We, Victory 5, we know who's playing. The game that starts at 3 a.m., Gen G versus KT, we don't. We have a pretty good idea. But the 5 a.m. T1 versus Hanawa Life, that game, that's in the LCK. And yeah, I mean, there are a lot of question marks there. So I don't know what it is about the Korean teams that they're trying to, be secretive. They're kind of like a starting baseball pitcher that, the manager doesn't want to let you know who the starting pitcher is because, it's not like they have prepared for everybody on the team. But yeah, all right. So Team We versus Victory 5. This is kind of a game that I'm very interested in. Team We is a team that I'm very high on. I think that they're very good. They've played almost this same roster last year where they were a fringe playoff team, and the only change that they made was in their mid lane. They've got a guy in there now named Shanks versus previously Teacherma. The big problem with Teach was that he had about 2 champions that he could play. And when you banned those champions out at the beginning of the game, it really just hurt the team overall. So they had some high moments. They had some low moments last year. Getting a new mid laner in, they think is going to just solidify this team a little bit more. And I agree. In my $500 entry for a season-long draft, I went really heavy on Team We. I had the wheel I had at the end. I've got Bishang. I've got Jumang. And both of these guys are people that I think I want to target. So when you're looking at these teams, you really want to captain either a jungler, an ADC, or a mid. Those are your ideal 3 players that you want to put in that captain position. Sometimes you're not going to be able to due to the pricing, but right now the meta is towards that ADC and towards that jungler. So Bishang, Jumeng are the 2 guys that I'm looking at for WE if I think WE is going to beat Victory 5. And I think that they are. They are the favorite. Victory 5 is kind of running back a very similar team to what they had last split. And in summer 2020, they surprised a lot of people because in spring, guess how many games they won? 1. They won 1 game. They won no series. These are all best of 3s. Victory 5 was the team that you stacked against. Now, the one difference that they're going to have is that their ADC is going to be Y4, a guy that's been in the league for a long time. He's replacing CMD. They kind of shared the role last year. CMD, I think, is a better ADC than Y4. Victory 5 was a fast-paced team. So what this means, though, in this game is that there's a very good chance that it doesn't go past 30 minutes. I think only a small percentage of Victory 5 games went past 30 minutes. They're just a high-paced, fast team. But the byproduct of that, while you think it would be a high kill total game, it's kind of the opposite. They were a middle of the pack to the bottom in terms of kills per win and also deaths per loss. So, that's the concern I have with Team WE. They are high-priced. I do like every component of them. So I don't have a problem going with any part of them, but WE is going to be a heavy part of my builds.
Yeah, and I've been doing a little research, knowing I was coming on with you today. And one of the things I'm seeing a couple of sharp players talk about is a contrarian pick in Y4 as a captain pick if you're going to fade We.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, he has the ability to get fed, but he has the propensity to make just a lot of mistakes, get caught out of position, and that's going to cost them the game. But for them to win, he's going to have a good game. There's just not a lot of parts of this Victory 5 team that I'm really crazy about from a fantasy perspective. My favorite play would probably be Wee Wee in the jungle, and then I guess it's actually Wei Wei, I think.
Wee Wee and PB God in the jungle?
PB God is a fantastic support. He's probably one of the top, you could say top 5 for sure, top 3 in the LPL, maybe in the world, and he facilitates a lot of things. So, if you are going to play Y4, I think you definitely go ahead and put PB God on your roster, and then Wei Wei is the guy that I would go along with him.
So what I'm seeing here, too, is I'm seeing a couple of spots who are actually thinking the Wii team might go a little under-owned, and because of their price and because of some of the kind of big names from the worlds that are spread out throughout a few of the other teams. Do you buy into that, or do you think Wii is just going to be nice and heavily or expectedly owned?
So there's a couple teams that, so when the boom happened last year, when, pro sports shut down, China was just really kind of opening back up. There have been a couple teams that, even amongst those of us that adapted this game at that time, that have been good or have been bloody, that have been teams that have won people a lot of money. I didn't mean for that to rhyme, but that was pretty good. I was a rapper in my past life. And WE is one of those teams. So they're typically pretty well owned. There are a couple other spots on the slate, but when you look at it, Victory 5 is very, very, very underowned, or not very underowned, underpriced. I mean, so when you're looking at the LPL, we're talking about teams that can upset other teams on any given day, especially in the beginning of the season and in the beginning of the split, where we don't really know necessarily how these teams are. Both of these teams are pretty much comprised of the teams that played last year. The meta is different. The items are different. The champions that you're going to play, which is what the meta is going to be different. So it's not to say that you can't play Victory 5, even though WE is the favorite here, to get some of those other guys that are highly owned. And that could precipitate why some of that ownership is there. I don't think that there's any necessary way that you can find really good ownership projections. I've never really seen that on any of the tout sites that I've looked at when I've used it. So, I don't know.
I based that comment basically off, us talking about doing the show today, going to some key places, Roto Grinders, Asimo, trolling Twitter for hashtags and just kind of looking to see who people are talking about. And the one team that I saw quite a lot of people talk about, and is very fun for me, because you helped me to a very nice victory, and it was using this team earlier this spring. But Gen G, with a guy like Ruler and Clid and BDD, I mean, these guys absolutely crushed for me last year in that championship that I took down. And I hear a lot of people talking about them. Is that for good cause? Are they going to dominate? Is this a team you're confident goes out and wins 2-0?
So when you're looking at some of these teams, when you're looking at the LPL, they're more prone to those upsets. But when you look at, on the other hand, the LCK, it doesn't work like that. I think almost 70 to 80% of the times the favorites end up winning. And Gen G was, arguably one of the best teams last year. They disappointed in Worlds. I think they finished second best in the summer. They should have gotten. No, they finished third. They should have gotten second. There was a terrible pause, a technical pause that was like an hour and a half. They were up, I think, 2-0 in the series, and then they ended up losing the next 3 games to DRX. But the big thing here for Gen G is they are returning almost the entirety of their roster from last year. Now, I've read some things and I've talked to some people, and I think that there is some concern that Gen G in some of these off-season tournaments that have been happening didn't bring their roster out. So what kind of work has this team been putting in to this new patch? I would assume that they've put in a good amount, but this is the first time we're going to see this team in this meta. To be fair, KT, this is going to be kind of the first time we're going to see them in this meta in regards to a tournament that actually matters. But they have been, playing in these off-season tournaments. However, they've been running out 10 guys. So there's something to say that on the KT side of things, these guys are good players. A lot of them are veterans. Some of them aren't, but they've been kind of playing together, trying to figure out what this roster is going to be, whereas Gen G is just running it back. And Gen G was one of the bloodiest teams in the LCK last year. So after the spring split happened, they went into a kind of invitational tournament for teams from China, teams from Korea. They got beat there. They got beat by some of these Chinese teams, and they figured out that they wanted to play a little bit more up pace. They wanted to have a little bit more skirmish heavy kind of play style, and you saw that, and they really styled on teams that weren't as good as them. They slowed it down against your DRXs. They slowed it down against Damwon. Those are 2 of the better teams, and even to some extent T1. But when they were playing the KTs, the Sandboxes, the Hanwhas, and the Afrikas from last year, they just went crazy. So yeah, I mean, I initially really, really liked Gen G. The problem is it's hard to play Gen G, it's hard to play WE, and it's hard to play a team like IG together just because of the way that their pricing works. Now, you can get some combination of those teams, but you're not stacking optimally in terms of putting an ADC mid or jungle captain.
Right. If you're trying to do that, you're looking at like life as a support captain, and that's just never usually a good idea.
No, I mean, look, you can play that probably in cash or in heads up. I think that's okay because, so what we've seen right now in the 2-game lineups or the 2-game slates, we've seen it that you can have a losing side because teams have been just so heavily owned. We've seen so many heavy favorites lose, but now we've got 4 games, and it's going to be a little different. So just looking at this right now, if you wanted to play a combination of those 3 teams, I think you can get some, but you're not getting anything with an ADC or a mid captain. I think you're going to have to go to a.
Yeah, I was playing around a little earlier. It's really difficult. You get a top in there, maybe.
There's a couple builds that you can do with a jungle captain, but that's it, and they're not even optimal. To be quite honest. So when you're optimally trying to build a lineup, and when I say something like that, what you kind of want is whoever your captain is, you want 3 other position players. You don't want to waste that necessarily on the team, because if your captain does well for somebody to score really well, they're typically on the winning side of things. And so you want as many positional players, because position players in a 2-game series are going to score somewhere between 60 to 70 for a support and up, whereas mids and ADCs and jungles are going to score somewhere 80 and up. 120 to 150 maybe in a crazy game, and tops very similar, more than a support but less than a jungle. So you want them in there where kind of a team is capped around 60, 70 points.
Yeah. I have a question for you. Sure. When you have these games that you need to win 2, is it a good strategy to try to identify the team that's going to win but's going to lose one?
It happens more often than you would be inclined to think. Heavy favorites do not 2-0 as frequently as you would think, especially in the LPL. And to some extent, you really actually want the team to sweep, because the idea is if they win 2-1, the game that they lose, for an example, last night, Top Esports was a team that lost 2 games.
Put up a ton of points, though.
Yeah, but they put up a ton of points. Correct. They outscored the winning team.
So even though you got more points because you played a 3rd game, a team that you are not as involved in, that somebody else may have ownership in, scored more points, so it actually hurts you.
Yeah. So, like, for example, let's take a look at a series that happened recently. It was BLG, Billy Gaming, played E-Star. They scored really well. The 2 games that they won was 18-6 and then 19-11. That was their kills versus deaths. The problem was in the first game, they lost 4-14. Now, a game not played bonus for a player is 20 points. But they didn't put up, none of their team put up 20 points in that first game. And so had they been able to sweep, it would have been a better scenario for them.
Gotcha. So you're saying they get a 20-point bonus for sweeping.
And the team slot gets a 15-point bonus.
Gotcha.
Whereas, so like, for example, that Top Esports series this morning, they won the first game 17-3, lost the second one. They had more kills than they had deaths, 24-21. So they scored more than that 20 points. And then in the third game, it it was 12. So there were certain components of them that would have benefited from a sweep, but ultimately they scored very well because of their kill total overall.
Yeah, I missed out on that. Who was the top scorer, the ADC from last night?
Jackie Love?
Not Jackie Love, from the earlier game.
Oh, LWX.
LWX, yeah. I missed out on LWX. That's the only reason. I made all my money back in a GPP, which is nice if you're not going to lose everything. But, I missed out on that play. It was cheap, scored a bunch of points. That's where I missed last night.
Yeah, I mean, like the chalky build last night was to go with top from FPX and Top Esports, and if you did that with 369, despite having a really tough second game, a 369 build with Niguri and I think it was even Top Esports as a team, maybe it was FPX. It's still cashed. It was like 2 points above the cash line because I had it, and it was one of my lineups that did cash last night.
I did. I will tell you, when I woke up at 5 a.m. to pee and then couldn't go back to sleep and opened up the scoreboard, somebody familiar was in first place.
Yeah.
It didn't last.
It was there for a while, but look.
Yeah.
So when I'm
I'd
playing
have said something, but that's like saying Verlander's got a no-hitter going. You just don't say it.
Yeah, well, look, what happens, especially in those 2-gamers, is I'm going to play at least 4 to 5, let's say 6 lineups, and one of those is going to be a game stack from each of the 2 games. So when you game stack the first game, you're typically going to be pretty high up there. So that happens pretty regularly.
You know how I play DFS, and it's always the late night hammer. So I am never in the lead. I am always the guy running from behind trying to catch up.
Well, my best lineup, my highest scoring one, was a game stack from the second one.
Right. That's what that one jumped up enough to give me that final $25 back to break me even, which was fun. Which I'm dumping all into NBA right now, which I'll probably lose. But I've been on a heater and haven't been losing in 2 weeks, so I just thought I'd throw it in.
Yeah, why not?
Screw it. So awesome, man. All right, let's move on. Let's see, what should we talk about? Yeah.
So, I mean, to recap these games, I favored WE, but I think some exposure to Victory 5 is fine. I like Gen G a lot more than I like KT. I've seen some other people that I highly respect, and I value their opinion, even though I think they're wrong here. Kind of are veering towards KT just based on the rust factor, which is kind of funny because if you go into this T1 Hanwha Life game, which we can go into,
I was looking at it.
Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's the same situation. T1 had not sent any of their main roster to some of these off-season tournaments, but that same person is feeling like, based on the organization as a whole, they may have been working a little bit harder. I kind of like this Hanwha Life, and I like some of the one-offs from Hanwha Life. They're just extremely, extremely cheap. Chovy is one of the best mid laners in the world, and he's down at like 6,200. I think you can make a lot of interesting lineups with WE, Gen G, and my other favorite team, IG, in terms of the slate. If you play like the team slot from Hanwha Life, if you play Vista in the support role. So that is a team that I think is pretty interesting to play. They kind of were hit or miss in terms of in the offseason tournaments, but Chovy and Ghost, these are both guys that came from TRX. They were the second best team last year. So yeah, I like them. I like them over T1. I'm not somebody that has, followed this for as long as some other people. So I don't have an affinity to T1. I don't have this bias to T1. T1 was one of the best teams, if not the best team, for a good stretch there. And they haven't been as long as I've been paying attention. So I just don't feel it. I think they're washed up. They're over the hill. And then the problem with playing T1 is that they have a 10-person roster. So not only will we not know who they're playing until about 4 a.m. after lock, but with the exception of Kiera, their support, we have no idea who's going to be playing from the top jungle, mid, or ADC position. And even if we did know the starters, there's a huge sub risk. So, you can play T1. It's a high risk type of situation for both of those scenarios. I'm probably going to have very limited exposure. And even as such, T1 has notoriously been a pretty slow-paced team. So I don't think I'm missing out on anything by not playing T1. They're the favorite. I've seen a lot of people really excited to play T1 that are, backing them. I'm just not there.
What about like a T1 team play one-off?
Well, you could even 2-off with Kiera because he's going to play the support. So you could play the team, you could play the support, and you could just build around that.
All right. I've made a note. I've written it down.
I mean, when it comes to it, if I had to pick who they were going to start, it's probably going to be Canna, Cuz, I'm guessing Faker, Teddy, and then Kiera. But out of those players, I think Faker is a high sub risk and might not even play. They have 3 junglers, so they might want to see something else out of their jungler, especially early in the split, and they have a secondary top. I would venture to guess Teddy's pretty safe, but you just never know.
Like I have a note here that one of the articles I was reading says that his favorite play is Chovy because playing against Faker is really fun to do, period.
Wow. Okay.
Sure. Thought I'd share that. I don't know anything about it. You know me. I'm a complete novice.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I haven't been the most eloquent in this little span of time here, but that was pretty poor analysis, if you ask me.
Pretty funny.
I mean, the thing is, Chovy is the least expensive mid laner, with the exception of the guy from KT, which is UCal. I mean, both of those guys are just significantly less expensive than a lot of these other guys. And there's even somebody in this next game that is a significant underdog that is higher priced than Chovy and not nearly the player that he is.
And so we are talking about LNG and Invictus Gaming.
That's correct.
All right, let's move along. So tell me about Rookie and why I should love him.
Rookie's just one of the better players and, one of the best mid laners that is in the game right now. And they looked really good against a good team in their first game. And that's kind of what you want to see. So they played JDG, which won the spring split, was second place in the summer, a world's finalist, and they beat them 16-4 and 25-7. The only big change in their team was that they went out and got a different jungler, somebody out of their developmental leagues, and put him in there. It was one of their weak spots.
Please tell me that's Tarzan, because that would just make sense.
No. Tarzan's on the other side. We're talking about Zune here.
But why can't Tarzan be a jungler?
Tarzan is a jungler.
Yes, that's the best news I've heard all day.
Tarzan is a jungler. So
named Tarzan is a jungler. That makes me happy.
So here's the other thing with IG, that they kind of last year were just this team that I think a lot of what's happening with top esports right now is happening with IG, that they just were better than a lot of teams. And so they didn't care what you were going to do. They didn't try and counterpick. There was no strategy. They were just going to come out and outplay you. And that was the same thing IG was trying to do and could do successfully to some extent. But as other teams got better and, kind of figured them out, they were able to play around their strengths, and IG wasn't doing anything to counterpick it. That's kind of what's happening to top esports, and I think that is something that Invictus has maybe solved. This LNG roster does really nothing for me. Icon was awful in the summer split last year. Tarzan had his moments back in 2019, but really wasn't much last year. Didn't play the entire time. I think the Shy will. I don't even know how to say this guy's in Mikoya in the top lane. Like, they are a plus 800 dog for a reason. I'll probably have like one, maybe two lineups with them included, but I think this is a pretty safe IG role. But again, we've seen some massive upsets, so you got to take that stab where you can.
I dig it. So one of the things, and it's probably too early, but I know that when we were getting into the swing of it in the spring and early summer, one of the things that you were really key on noticing was figuring out when blue side and red side were hot, and figuring out when it had kind of switched from ADC being the consistent high scorer to the mid being the consistent high scorer. And then towards the end of me playing with you, before I got involved in football, the jungler really kind of turned into the pivot spot. Have you seen anything early on here?
Yeah, I think the jungle and the ADC position are the ones that you want to target. The mid is going to be predominant on some teams. I think IG is really the only team that's playing today that has that. And I think that's the most interesting component for Gen G, is that even when it moved towards the jungle and the mid position in terms of the meta and who was scoring the points and how teams were playing through, their carries, Ruler was still the guy. So I think that this is just going to kind of, snowball. And I think Ruler's going to have a fantastic start to the split as a basis that teams are playing a little bit through that ADC.
I know the last time I won a chunk of change with you, it was we had just noticed that there was this whole tournament where like red side just crushed. So we were like literally just starting most of our picks with whoever drew the red side. And it was just crushing. That was, I don't know if that's an oddity or something that just kind of develops with the patches and the metas that develop.
It just depends on what champions are big at the time and how teams want to approach it. You've seen a lot of teams. So blue side was super dominant towards the end of last split, and actually for almost the entirety of it. If you lost, you went to blue side, and blue side was was just better. Blue side is you get the first pick. And then red kind of counters it. There have been a couple teams, even when blue was strong, that wanted to have that counter pick and kind of just counter the other team. But you saw even last night, Top Esports went red after they lost that second game, wanted to counter pick, and it was kind of a mistake. They didn't get the Kaisa that they wanted. If I recall correctly, they didn't even get the Graves. And so there are certain things, like if you're going to ban certain champions, the blue side's going to get the first pick. So you leave that champion out there. You don't ban him. There's a chance that blue side's going to take him. And Graves in the jungle is super strong right now. And he's just a guy that a lot of people are going to take on the blue side. And it's going to just make it a lot stronger for the jungle on that team. And so if you start on blue side, you get blue side. If you win the first game, great. You go to red. And if you lose that game, you get blue side for the third one. So having blue 2 times is kind of
something was off, because I watched that in the morning, and when it got to match 3, man, I mean, it was over from the beginning. I mean, it was, for a hot minute it looked like it'd be competitive, but then it was they just got run over at the end. It just seemed like they didn't have the right counter plays. It seemed like they were off balance from the beginning. It seemed like they didn't really have a plan. The third game was just kind of bogus. After how fun the second match was, the third game just kind of sucked.
Well, you must have missed the first game then.
Yeah, no, I missed most of the first game.
Yeah, it was. Just a complete roll for Top Esports in the first game, and it should have been the second game. They just made a couple mistakes, let RW back in, and then for whatever reason, 369 wasn't buying Azonias, which is a item that allows you, when you're a Kennen, when you come in, you're trying to shock everybody. It makes you pretty susceptible to everybody attacking you. You hit the stopwatch, you're invulnerable for 2.5 seconds, and then you can go about it as your team comes in. He just never bought that. And, the caster said it. It was in the Discord. A lot of people were just not understanding why he did that. And I think it cost him the game.
Yeah, sometime we're going to have to sit down and play the game together, because I'm playing. I have no idea what any of these items are, what they build to, what I'm supposed to do for my character. So we're gonna have to have some fun. I know I could watch that all through YouTube, but it'd be more fun to play.
Sure.
Well, man, I mean, I don't really have any more questions. Anything else you want to touch on? Any favorite plays that you're targeting, or are you still just kind of feeling it out and trying to figure out what these 5 a.m. start time lineups are going to be like?
No, for me, I mean, my favorite 3 teams are still going to be the biggest favorites, in my opinion, which are going to be Gen G, WE, and IG. That Hanwha Life T1, I see that game completely different. So I am going to have components of Hanwha Life, and I don't want to go too crazy, but the whole component or thing here that makes it different is that we've got to have some of those pieces. You just can't play the 3 favorites. You just can't get away with it. They are not letting you. I wish they would. It'd be a lot.
So what are you going to do here? Are you going to do like a 2-2-2 thing? How are you going to build this lineup?
3-3, 3-3s, 4-2s, stuff like that.
All right. Just curious. All right, man. Well, I got nothing else. I've just been reading some articles, listening to you, enjoying the chat, and happy to chat. And we'll see what happens with the contests, and maybe I'll see us again. If you have questions, of course, hit us up at Draft for Upside's Facebook page anytime. Look down there below Mr. Chris's beautiful face. You'll see his Twitter handle, Emrick D4U. He's happy to answer questions if you tweet at him. And, if you want us to break anything down or talk about anything, hit us up. We're happy to jump on for a few minutes most nights. That's all I got, man.
Yeah, I think as we get more data, it's just like the NFL season, only it happens a little bit quicker. As these teams play more, you're going to see more trends. It's the beginning of the season, so we are going off of data from last year, and that's just not always reliable. So, This is a good time to, go for those upsets. Bet the dogs. That's the big thing. If you were betting the dogs the last couple of days, there were a couple, plus 800, plus 600. I lost the majority of my bets last night, but I won money because even Rogue Warriors, I think it was plus 1.5. So basically they had to win one game, was plus 185.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get.
I did not bet them to win the series. Unfortunately, that would have been a little bit more. So in my bets yesterday, I kind of just that whole series just worked really well for me because I bet everything Top Esports in the first game, but bet Rogue Warriors to win a game, and Top Esports dominated the game where I bet them to win first blood, first dragon, and first tower, and they won all of those things, and then they promptly lost the next game, and I cashed in. And even though FPX was somebody that I bet against as well, thought, oh my God, could take one of those games. They couldn't. They didn't even look good. I lost that bet, lost my parlay. It was all right.
All right. Well, if you thought that you were going to get away without my favorite segment of every show, you are sorely mistaken, my friend.
Sure.
What you're gonna have to do is you're gonna have to go over to PrizePicks.com. You're gonna sign up for a new account. You're gonna use promo code Blueprint for a 100% deposit match up to $100. That's a real deposit match. None of this crap from DK and all these other places.
I'll be right back. I've got something for you.
You got something. I like it. This is a real deposit, my friends. You put $100 in your PrizePicks.com account, you get a real $100 deposit. You can bet it all on a $100 bet right there. It's a little bit different at Prize Picks. What you do is they give you over/under projections for every sport out there, including esports, including MMA, all of it. You can mix and match parlays basically. So you pick 2, 3, 4, or 5 players. You can pick all of these, all those players from LOL. You can mix it in with basketball, football, you name it. You just got to put 2, 3, 4, or 5 players together, and if you get them all right, you exponentially increase your prize pick. So you didn't know that I was going to go here, did you?
I didn't, but look what I brought for you. This is a locally made seltzer.
I like it. Locally made seltzer. Good man. All right, we got Prize Picks here, man. This couldn't be any easier as we get some more information on the season. I feel like we're going to clean up on this, Chris. So here's the rules. 1 point a kill, 1 point an assist. That's it. That's all we have to look at. 1 point a kill, 1 point an assist.
Okay, I'm ready.
Let's take a look at this. You can see it on the screen, yes?
I sure can.
All right, so let's just see if any of these stick out to you. How about a hybrid over at the LCK, 11.5?
I'm just looking at all of these, trying to figure out where I want to go.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
I see it says bottom here, but when you're playing DK, there's no bottom. What is bottom?
ADC, because they're in the bottom lane.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense.
Let's take Ju Ming, the guy that you had right there. Let's take the over on him. Let's take the over on Ruler.
Like it.
Let's take the over on the Shy for sure.
The Shy, yeah. I dig it.
And Ju Ming too.
Nice. All right. Where did everything just go? Oh, it shook around on me.
He's up top.
Yeah. It moved on me when I clicked on him. So this is basically what you do, right? We got 3 players here, and we've selected them. And you walk over here, and you just go over, over, over. Now, I don't have any money in this account, but you could see that if I made a $20 wager, if we get all 3 of those correct, we win $45. How about that?
There you go.
Let's see if let's say we put Wee Wee in there.
I would say the under on Wee Wee.
Let's give him the under. We get all 4 of those correct. That $20 becomes $100. Let's get wild.
You can't play the $3.25 promo that you have in there?
I cannot. You have to do a minimum $5 bet.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, but I'm going to load some more money in now that we've got this up and running. And then let's get wild. Let's throw Teddy in there and say Teddy's going to go under that 20. Boom. Now we get all 5 of those correct. That's $200, my friend.
So if Teddy goes under the 20, Morgan probably goes over the 12.5.
There you go. We can only do 5 plays, though.
Oh, so, man.
That's true. But the coolest thing here is, let's get rid of a couple of these here. Boop, ba-doo, ba-doo. Let me show you the coolest part. We can go over to the NFL. We can take Cam Akers and say that boy's going over 15. And we could throw him in there with LOL guys. That's wacky.
Wow.
Boom. Kind of cool, huh?
It is.
I like it. We're going to get more into that. I tell you what. All right. That's all I got, my friend. Thank you. Please, if you have seen that, check out prizepicks.com. Promo code Blueprint. Get you some free money. I got nothing else, buddy. Thanks for hanging out with me.
I'm all good.
All right, man. Well, we will see everybody, I guess, tomorrow night for the weekly show, 8 p.m. Eastern, breaking down my very nice birthday weekend and looking at the divisional playoffs.
Yes, sir.
Right,
4-game main slate.
Yeah. That's not bad. I kind of like it.
No, it's nice.
I like it. All right. Well, we'll see you tomorrow night, guys. Cheers.